All right, so going back to task achievement for academic task 1. Well, we need to really dig into this because this is exactly where we should be getting the highest score. Simply because we can strategize now, really, and get as high of a score as possible in here. So we're, of course, going to work through all those strategies in the upcoming videos, but just so you know exactly why we are talking about those strategies and incorporating those, well, we could see it over here. Now, there's two big important elements we need in order to get that high score in task achievement. Well, in task achievement for academic task 1. And one is the overview. So something we're going to really talk about is the difference between an overview and an introduction. For the overview, the examiner is basically asking this: does the candidate clearly and adequately summarize the main trends? Well, depending on how well you do that, that really affects your task achievement score. So let's take a look over here. Now we can see in your, let's say, band 5. All right, recounts details mechanically with no clear overview. So this is somebody, we'll go into this again in the next video, but this is somebody who really just gives all the numbers quickly. So without any sort of performance, I guess we could say. So if we look at the, there's a little grid on top here, and it says giraffes, orangutans, monkeys. And this would be somebody who just says, okay, the San Francisco Zoo has 20 giraffes, 14 orangutans, 23 monkeys. The LA Zoo has 13 giraffes, 18 orangutans, and 29 monkeys. So you can see with that, this is a person who is definitely being mechanical in relaying the information for the examiner. Now, we don't want to do that, of course. There's ways that we're going to use to make sure that we don't fall into that trap and make sure that we don't get a 5, of course. And a very clear one is simply the overview, if there's no clear overview. So we're going to see that we're going to overcome this by really making an incredibly clear overview right at the beginning of the task response. This is going to help us by helping the examiner to, well, really see that we certainly did present a clear overview. And then right away, they're looking at a band 7. And hopefully we can maintain that high score throughout the response. And then, of course, we'll certainly get that score that you deserve. All right, when we take a look at a 6, presents an overview with information appropriately selected. Great. All right, and then we'll skip the next bullet point because that talks about general training. But when we look at the final bullet point, presents and adequately highlights key features, bullet points, but details may be irrelevant, inappropriate, or inaccurate. All right, so that's where we get into when somebody, well, we'll talk about this later on, but when somebody puts in details that simply aren't important for describing the graph. For example, with this one, right, we have giraffes, orangutans, and monkeys at 2 different zoos. Well, maybe the person writing the exam, so maybe the exam taker is a zoologist who actually works at the LA Zoo, which would be really cool, an amazing job. But does that help him with the response here? No, because maybe the person can, well, in some ways, maybe parts of the lexical resource, but in terms of the information here, it's not a test on zoo animals, right? It's an English test, and what they want to do is, again, they want you to be able to describe this graph accurately and adequately enough for the examiner to, of course, draw this graph just from your description, and that's something we'll talk about later on as well. If you put in details that aren't relevant, or extra details, or you talk about global warming, or something like that that's not on the grid, not on the graph, then, of course, you're limited to a 6. 7 is, of course, the minimum, really, of what we're aiming for in this one. If you get a 7 here, and then let's say you get a 6 in grammar or lexical resource, that's fine. I mean, for the people who need a 6.5, it covers up, it kind of evens out, really, the score, the lower score anyways. And this is something, task achievement is really something we can fix quickly. And it's the strategy really is to raise your task achievement and your CC score quickly. And then, of course, if we have time to raise your lexical score and your grammar score, that's fantastic as well. But using the strategies, you can really make sure that you get a 7 simply by studying these videos, by working through all of the lessons, and of course, getting that feedback. So those are some things you can improve quickly in 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours of studying versus grammar lexical resource, which will really take you months sometimes to study. Okay, look at a 7 here. Presents a clear overview of main trends, differences, or stages. That's why we're going to put this right at the beginning. We're going to make that overview right at the beginning, as we'll see in the next video. And then, of course, clearly presents and highlights key features, but could be more fully extended. Okay, that's fine. And then an 8, of course, is really somebody who is very clearly doing everything, really. The 9 is perfect, perfect, perfect.